What's up, guys? We are back, and today we have Dennis. Dennis is another one of those guys that I have watched for I don't even know how many years that I followed your stuff, which is super fun to finally connect. But Dennis, kick it off. How would you describe yourself and where you currently are in the space?
Yeah. So my name's Dennis Hegstad. Been doing e-commerce since the MySpace days. Launched my first brand in 2009 when just WordPress was coming out and PayPal had just launched their first checkout button or buy now button. And fast forward, I've started my own brands again in 2015. I ran the paid media at Fashion Nova in 2017. And then in 2018, launched a Shopify app for text message marketing called LiveRecover. Sold that in 2021. Then bought and sold an upsell app, pre-purchase, post-purchase upsells called Order Bump. And then had two failed apps since then. And now about to launch a new supplement brand in the direct-to-consumer space. Or it's going to be utilizing direct-to-consumer as a channel. But yeah, kind of been in e-commerce and software and paid advertising for most of my career.
Yeah, that's legendary. I've heard some podcasts and some interviews on you, and I want to zoom back to like the whole MySpace, WordPress. What were you guys? So original days. What was like the initial biz?
So in the early days of MySpace, I was like 15 years old, but I was, into music. I was kind of in that like emo scene. I had like, piercings and flat iron dyed hair and was into like screamo music and stuff. And I got to having kind of a lot of friends on MySpace. Let's call it, I don't know if it was 70,000, 80,000, maybe 100,000. And sometimes I would get paid by bands to promote it was called posting a bulletin, but posting a bulletin for money. And when you're 15 and a band offers you $30 to post a bulletin and you can do like, call it 5 of them a week when you're a sophomore in high school. And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm making $150 a week, not really doing anything. But then those bands stop paying you. And then I'm like, oh, well, I was getting used to, making $150 to $200 a week doing nothing. How do I monetize my sort of, I don't want to call it an audience, but just like friends or whatever you want to call it, the traffic that I was getting. And so I realized that I needed to sell something. And I tried putting, ads on my profile. MySpace didn't allow you to have code on the profile. So I couldn't use Google AdSense, which was like brand new at the time. And so I'm like, what's the thing that I can still go to concerts and the shows and hang out with some of these bands and sort of like always have control over not running out of a brand paying or a band paying me to post or whatever it is. And that was t-shirts and like hoodies. And so I just made, a brand call it a brand. It's more like a little clothing line. And I had maybe 7 or 8 designs. And this was whenever American Apparel was pretty new. So, I was buying wholesale blank t-shirts from American Apparel, having them sent to a screen printing shop. That screen printing shop was printing on the designs that I was providing, and then they were shipping me product. And I just kept them in my room at my parents' house, and I had boxes all in my living room, and I was a senior in high school.
I love it. I love it, dude. I wish I got into this stuff. I was like 19 probably when I just bought some like info product course for the first time. It was affiliate, and that was like my first get into it. But it's just like you hear back when people are doing like flipping usernames and doing all that stuff. Like I didn't even, Instagram was for girls back then. It was like, oh, we're not even going to get on that thing. Like, it was so silly looking back. So let me get my timelines here correct. So you went from there to Fashion Nova versus LiveRecover.
Okay, so yeah, I basically moved to Los Angeles after that and kind of decided, you know what, I didn't really like building the brand was fun, but it was more about building the brand that was fun. Not that I was so passionate about fashion necessarily or screen printed t-shirts or whatever it was. It was more like, oh, what I was doing was like, oh, I'm building a list of emails. I'm watching the Google Analytics and seeing how many people buy. And then I'm like, how do I get more people to buy? And then I realized like, oh, I'm actually like more interested in that than the specific thing I was selling. And so, yeah, then I was running a network of meme pages. MySpace started dying, and I started being like, oh shit, I, wasn't like expecting MySpace to be around forever, but Facebook started taking off, and then Twitter launched, and I realized I need to start funneling some of my friends to followers on Twitter. And so I started building my account up on Twitter, but realized that I wanted to post ads on Twitter to monetize an account. But I didn't want it to be me because I don't want to be looked at, and I just don't want to be someone that's just like whoring themselves out for penny clicks on some affiliate network, right? For an account. So I started making meme pages. And that was like 2009 or 2010. fast forward to 2014, I had about 12 million followers on Twitter across all my pages. And granted, I had like 20 pages. They were all a couple 100,000 to a few million followers on each page. But we were able to, those pages were driving tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of clicks a day. And so if you even get paid, call it 2 or 3 cents a click from advertisers, you're monetizing pretty well.
Yeah.
So I did that for like many years moving forward while trying to build some software companies, working at a startup in Santa Monica, and then realizing like, hey, instead of going to other advertisers and asking for them to pay me per click or joining a network and getting brokered a deal as an affiliate, back to the MySpace situation. How do I control the offers and own these offers? And so that was 2015. That's when I got back into e-commerce again and was, basically buying skincare products from China, private labeling them, having them sent to a fulfillment center somewhere in like Florida or Texas, and was just using my Twitter accounts and advertising on Facebook as sort of a way to kind of like push dropship products, but
Yeah.
they were branded in my own brand and they were
Yeah.
held in America.
Yeah, dude, you're like all over the space. Like I see I'll see your X post and you'll be like affiliate over here, like lead gen over here, paid over here, ecom over here, SaaS, like all over. So what then jumped to SaaS? Or like how?
Yeah, so I mean, I was doing, like in 2012, 13, 14, we were cloaking Facebook, doing, diet pills and dick pills and teeth whitening strips and lead gen for, auto insurance, zip code submits or social security disability insurance lead gen, you name it, we were running traffic to it. And I was like, wow, eventually you need to own that offer, right? How do you become the guy on the other end? I never ended up doing that in the affiliate space because at the time it was like the wild, wild west. But moving forward to 2017, when I was running ads at Fashion Nova, I had my own brand, but I was also working at Fashion Nova as a contractor. But I started to see a little bit under the hood. Oh, wow, this tool that we've installed and implemented at Fashion Nova is driving this much of revenue lift, but also look at how much they're charging the brand. And if you can, like, at the end of the day, if you ran a brand or if you do run a brand and I built a software and I can say, hey, for every dollar you pay me, I'm making sure you made $10 back first, guaranteed. That's just called a 10% commission on whatever your SaaS
Yeah.
is, right? Which if you even try to sell now is like, what? You're taking 10% commission? That's so high. But let's just say it's 5% commission. If I can make you $100,000 a month and I'm billing you after I make you 100 grand, are you open to giving me 5 grand out of that?
Yeah.
Most people will say yes.
Yeah.
And that's a 20x return on ad spend guaranteed after you've driven results.
Yeah.
So we were like, me and my co-founder were looking at ways that we could sell something like that. How do we guarantee to make somebody more money and then just take a rake on the back end? And then
Yeah.
of course there's like some small SaaS fee up front. Like with LiveRecover, it was 99 or 199 a month plus the percentage. And so I hadn't built any kind of pure SaaS plays before, and LiveRecover was the first one. And once you get your first kind of recurring revenue customers, you're like, whoa, like, yeah, it's only 199 a month, but when we get 100 of these, we're making 20K in recurring, and then whatever the usage fees are were many multiples higher than the fixed recurring fees. So it started to like kind of show me where I thought like, wow, as an affiliate, you can blow up an offer and make a bunch of money in a couple days, then get your ad account banned,
Yeah.
and then have to start all over. And it's like, wow, you're starting a new business essentially every few days and chasing your own tail. And yeah, the highs are highs and the lows are low, but uh, recurring revenue is like, oh my God, Stripe is billing while we slept. I woke up and saw like $1,000 more in our Stripe account. Our Slack billing channels going off. It's like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, 100%. How did you, like, so you said co-founder, are you the technical one or do you have co-founder technical or you guys just knew the right people?
Yeah, I've had a friend who was actually, we've been friends through MySpace, since MySpace. We didn't talk until for many, many years. And then AOL was like, we're announcing that we're shutting down AIM, the AOL
Yeah.
Instant Messenger. So I logged in. I was like, holy shit, they're shutting this down. I wonder who still uses this. I logged in and my friend from MySpace was still on there. And I'm like, oh shit, what's up, dude? Where do you live? And he's like, tells me where. And I'm like, you're a half mile from me in Hollywood. Let's meet up. So then we started, just like hanging out every so often. And then once I was at Fashion Nova, we started chatting more. And he was like, dude, I had this idea for something. He had a better idea, which was LiveRecover. And he's like, hey, I can build this. Can you go sell it? And he built the beta in a couple weeks. And while he was building it, I had, 15 brands or 20 brands waiting to use it before it was done. And the brands are all big, right? We had like Young and Reckless. We had Liquid Death as like the second store we ever had install.
Crazy.
But I had relationships with their
Yeah,
VC
exactly.
firm. I knew who, invested in Dollar Shave Club. I knew who did this. I knew who did that. And because I worked in some startups in LA and because of my meme network, I was doing distribution and brokering out deals for some of these brands. I was just able to kind of get us customers early. But no, I'm not the technical one, although I always say I know enough to break stuff, but not enough to build stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I'm the CTO on paper, and it's just like, 5 million zaps and like a bunch of data
Yeah,
connected to
no,
systems.
no.
I'm like, yeah, I'm good, but I can break a lot of things.
I can read code and I can fix like front end, tweaking some button colors and like read through some logic and be like, oh, how does this work? Or this is a great way of doing things. But if someone's like, hey, I want to pay you to build something, I would say, great.
Yeah,
You're paying me to build someone, I'm paying someone else to build it.
yeah, exactly. So so LiveRecover, based on my research of what I did, is that went over 100 million in recovered carts, and then
Probably
scaled up
200, probably 250 million actually.
crazy. And then so you guys sold that, I think you said 2021.
Yep.
And that was, I don't know if you talk numbers on that, but that was a successful exit for you guys.
Yeah, we sold to a family office, a private equity fund, and they wanted to be private about the sale, which was totally fine. I don't have any benefit to telling people
Yeah.
who it was. And yeah, we got, a lot of cash up front, and it was everything that we had asked for. We probably could have got more. I know like a lot of people are like, whoa, you got such a good deal. But if that company, I mean, LiveRecover is bigger now than it was when we sold it. But if our company was at the same state now as it was in 2021 when we sold it, we would probably be able to actually get more than what we sold it for.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was a great outcome. We stayed for, some time after and then transitioned that business into the new ownership, and they've been running it since then.
Nice. Cool. And then you said the next one you bought and then grew and sold again.
Yeah, yeah, that was I mean, I got lucky here. I'd like to say, or I thought, I'm like, man, I'm fucking good at this. Uh, that's how I felt. I mean, maybe that's true also, but I found an app which was ironically an agency partner and a friend of LiveRecover's, which that I had found and became friends with. And their agency was big. Let's call it an 8-figure a year agency, development, branding, really good at what they do. They're called Van Group, and they had built Order Bump as an internal tool to sort of sell into their client base because they're like, oh, they're generally asking us for this anyway. It didn't take us that long to build it, and we can make some small extra recurring revenue over time. That got to, let's call, I don't know what they peaked at, but maybe they peaked at 30,000 in monthly recurring revenue, and then it took for the next year, they just didn't focus on it. They're like, oh, we're getting even bigger brand clients and yada yada. So we don't really want to invest into building a SaaS when we really are running an agency. So that app sort of plateaued and then just slowly was decaying for 9 months straight. And they were trying to offload it, and they didn't have any buyers on, I guess, MicroAcquire or Acquire.com now, and some of the other brokered networks where you could sell a business. And so I reached out and was like, hey, I'll give you this sort of like lower than what you're asking for offer, but I have cash. I'm ready to move right now. I don't need financing. Like, it's just me. And me, like I'll take good care of the brand, if you will. I'm not just going to like run it into the ground. And so they sold it to me. Let's say it was doing 24,000 in monthly recurring revenue or a little bit less. And then within 100 days, I had gotten it back up to 30,000 MRR. And somebody else that was raising a lot of money called App Hub, they raised like $150 million or something. And I bought this app for like $500,000, right? They're like, oh, wow, you have a 3 months of growth month over month. This is like fits our profile for our portfolio. What are you willing to let it go for? And I'm like, you can buy it off me for, $1.5 million or whatever it is. And they were like, great. And so I stayed for a couple months after 3 months, I think, helped them transition it to their portfolio and their internal team. And then I got to sort of step back. And yeah, that was it for Order Bump. It was a very short-lived, awesome flip. In hindsight, I don't regret selling it, but because like making let's call it making $1 million in 100 days, everybody would love that.
Yeah.
But if I had held it and built it and let it hold from then until now, I probably would be able to sell it for 5 or 10 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
right? But I didn't really give it enough time to marinate. I just like
Saw $1 million
I
and said,
flipped
"Rip
it as
it."
soon
Yeah.
as the oven was heated up,
Yeah.
I didn't really get to eat what I had done. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Very cool. So then, and then you've said now you've launched two other ones that haven't gone as well. But the other thing with you that I see, at least online, you know, and public perception is what it is. But like I feel like you just like live a cool life. Like I feel like you just live like a fun, like it looks like you travel, like your watches, the car, like, but in like not a, how do I say this politely to other people who do this? But like not in like a flashy way, but in like you have like genuine interest. Like you like the certain cool car because of this. You like the watches because you actually care about that. Like it looks like you have a like a genuine interest in a lot of that stuff, which I don't think a lot of people do. Again, not to throw jabs, but I feel like you have like a genuine interest outside of just the business stuff, which is cool to me. So it was like
Yeah.
that the era of exploring that more.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with two immigrant parents, and my parents divorced when I was young, and we didn't have really anything. We had nothing, and so I definitely liked some things like this, right? I grew up as a normal dude who played sports, played video games. I was building computers when I was young. Maybe that was the one thing that was like not as normal as most kids, but I had DuPont registry, car, paint like pictures on my wall. I got my first Fossil watch in whatever, 4th grade, 3rd grade, and I'm like, "Wow, I can't wait to get a fake Rolex one day." Right? And I got a fake Rolex when I'm like 13 because one of our friends' dads like went to Egypt or something, and I thought I was so fucking cool. And all of us are like little 13-year-olds wearing fake Rolexes at school, and we like think we're hot shit. But now as I got older, like I still liked some of those things. But I just wasn't in a position to prioritize spending money on things that were essentially like wasteful. And then after LiveRecover, a lot of the sort of financial things came into fruition, and they became real. And I'm like, oh wow, now like all the things that I've wanted maybe for a long time, I can decide if I really care about them or not. So I bought a G-Wagon, and I bought a vintage Mercedes, and I already had a Tesla, but buying those things didn't make me happy, but like it was kind of like winning a medal, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh great, now I have this trophy, and I feel great every time I drive it or look at it, and I genuinely love it, but like it's not like part of who I am per
Yeah.
se. But yeah, it's just, it feels good. And then like with watches, I've always wanted to get into it. And then once I actually started getting into it, I realized, whoa, there's like a huge community behind this, that people are generally pretty interesting if you care about it. You can tell if you talk about watches with people, do they actually care, or are they just buying it to show you what's on their wrist?
Yeah.
If you're, the former, then you're like, wow, like what 4 people spent 8 months building this. The dial is hand painted. This is guillocheed. This is this way. And you really start to appreciate it like art. But if you're
Yeah.
someone and you're like, hey, I paid 800 grand for that painting, you're like, that looks like a child's watercolor painting. And he's like, yeah, that's a Picasso, you idiot. Right. And then like for someone else, you're like, what? Wow, that Rolex is nice, but wow, you have $100,000 watch. Like that just looks like a whatever. And you're like, yeah, but like, do you know anything about it, and like the process and the materials and the history and like the heritage? It's like, no. And so I think when you get deep into some stuff like that, it's more for you and for the really deep knowledge type folks. If you want to show off to people, just, get a Mercedes, get a Rolex, and then start selling courses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, start selling courses is the real part. Yeah. So do you talk about the other two?
Oh yeah. So the other two apps, one was called Vigilance.
That one, I heard of that one. I think that was
It
like
was
when yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was an idea that stemmed from LiveRecover that one of our customers actually indirectly gave us without really knowing. But one of our biggest customers, they're a 9-figure brand. Their CTO is like, "Hey, we love the LiveRecover app, but your coupon codes end up on Honey sometimes in Capital One Shopping and Retail Me Not, and we have attribution issues with your coupon codes. We don't know what is or isn't coming from LiveRecover, so we feel like we might be overpaying y'all commissions." And sometimes those are influencer codes that we're paying LiveRecover commission and we're paying, someone else a commission,
Yeah.
right? And so we're like, weird. Okay. So they're like, we want they said, can you make one-time unique codes? Sure. That's an easy solution. And then the other ask was, can you actually tell us when our coupons get leaked online, and can you tell us where? And we're like, whoa, that's a business right there. And so we launched this little free, give us your domain and we'll email you every time your coupon codes leak online. And we called it Coupon Scout. I was like number 1 or number 2 on Product Hunt for the week. It was, got lots of brands signing up. But then when we sold LiveRecover, we didn't own it anymore. The company that bought LiveRecover owned it, and they didn't do anything with it for almost 3 years. And so we reached out. They gave us permission to relaunch the business. We rebranded it from Coupon Scout into Vigilance. So it was a coupon leak monitoring and attribution app. But instead of it just emailing you, hey, this code leaked, we could actually stop coupon codes from being injected altogether. And, or we could tell you, hey, if a coupon code leaks and it's over this value, 50%, automatically turn it off. If it's under 20% or 10 or whatever of the amount that you deem is okay, then allow it to still be used, but tell us which orders had an injection, and which ones didn't. So
Yeah.
let's just say that Ryan, you have 1,000 followers on TikTok. I give you Ryan 15, and I'm going to pay you. You get to give 15% off, right? And then I'm going to pay you 10% on commission of every sale that comes from Ryan 15. At the end of the month, you have 10,000 orders under Ryan 15, but you only have 1,000 followers, and your videos get 100 views. Well, maybe like that's most likely that it leaked, but there's not a real way for the brand to know. So in this case, our app could tell you, hey, out of those 10,000 Ryan 15 codes, only 16 of them came from somebody copying or typing the code in. All
Oh.
other 9,984 came from JavaScript injections, and we could tell you which exact coupon extension was doing it. So that way you could clean up all this sort of invalid affiliate commission that was owed.
Yeah.
So we were growing really quick in the beginning days. We launched in November 2022, and by February 2023, we're like, oh man, we're already at 120,000 in ARR. We think we can be $1 million business in the first year, and if we hit that, like the path to getting to 5 million a year seems like reasonable. 90 days into launch, Shopify says, hey, it's ironically on Valentine's Day of 2023, they announced our checkout is upgrading to something called Checkout One, and all the third-party apps that utilize custom scripts in the checkout, your app will be dead in 1 year. So they fucked us on Valentine's Day after we were just getting some initial traction. And granted, I'm not mad at Shopify for this. I understand the reasons why they did it, although it's 2025 August and they still have not depreciated
Oh,
checkout.liquid. It's been 3 years. They said it would be 1. They've extended it a year for the last 3 years in a row. And
wow.
so, but you can't partner with Shopify with other apps, and Shopify salespeople, like their what's called their merchant success managers, they're not going to promote apps that don't utilize their newest technology.
Yeah.
So we would essentially be like blacklisted from any
Yeah.
blog posting, shout outs on social, case studies. So we're like, okay, you don't want to build into a headwind, right? Like
Yeah.
you want, like right now, it's like you build AI. You want to ride the tailwinds. And so that kind of we raised money for that app for the first time. It was our first app that wasn't bootstrapped. And so it was a little bit tough, and we had to pivot after that. And yeah, so then we started building another app, and unfortunately, that app we just shut down like 2 weeks ago because Shopify made another update this year that basically killed our app along with a few others overnight.
Oh,
So I spent basically like 2.5 years on 2 businesses that Shopify crushed both.
yeah. No, and then even like Order Bump, when you were talking about that, we're in Blue Ribbon Mastermind, Ezra's thing.
Yep.
And Ezra, right, sold his it's not Order Bump, but like, the
Yeah, he has
version of his
Zipify and
post
one-click
purchase.
upsell.
Yeah. So he ended up selling those two there. So it's like they control that, right? If they choose that one as the one, it's now that. Because I remember the days when like Bold would like redirect you out and you
Yeah,
would have like
Recharge, Bold, Zipify, OCU, they have their own checkout. And
yeah,
Recharge even today still does because Shopify has, they don't allow that for anybody else. But
yeah,
Recharge is like, if you look at what the total GMV, which is the gross merchandising value of Shopify annually, let's say it's 200 billion. About 5 or 7% of that is still on Recharge's checkout. So if they have to migrate people from
yeah.
Recharge's checkout to Shopify native, and there's a problem, they could literally have leakage of billions of dollars in revenue loss. So even though
Crazy.
Shopify is not participating in that arbitrage of the processing fees, they want to be able to claim that revenue because it's coming from their merchants. So
Yeah.
Recharge got almost like too big to
Too big to
kneecap.
fail. Yeah.
Too big to kneecap. They have no net new customers that can go on that legacy checkout. All net new customers have to be on Recharge, which is native Shopify checkout and subscriptions. But they got so big that they did not get their old checkout discontinued or depreciated.
Yeah, it's crazy. What is like the hot thing right now for subscriptions? I know I see it all the time. People complaining about how subscriptions through Shopify is just like this messy thing. And like I've seen as a consumer a few different ones. Like I've obviously seen the Recharge, but I've seen a couple other ones more recent that are better. But like, is there like a go-to now that's the one for subscription management when it comes to that?
It seems like everyone has their own slight
Exactly.
edge
Yeah.
case and opinion on why the one they use is better. And to be transparent, I did invest in 2. One of them is called Skio, and one is called Upscribe. Upscribe failed, so I lost money on that. Skio's still around, but the founder, who is the main reason I invested, he left to start icon.com, this like AI
Oh yeah.
whatever thing, AI content generation tool. And Skio, I think the top providers are Recharge, Stay AI, Skio, maybe Smarter with 2 R's, and then there's like one or two others that I'm probably unaware of. And I don't like in the end, the one that I would trust the most is probably Recharge. They've been in
Yeah.
the space the longest. They really
Yeah.
understand the space. But Stay AI and Skio came into the space later, and sometimes there is a, call it, second mover's advantage by being able to learn what the first people did wrong, and in this case that'd be Recharge, and they built their business natively into the Shopify checkout from day one, whereas Recharge is managing essentially two environments from a legacy
Yeah.
checkout and a new checkout perspective. But I think if you went between Recharge, Skio, Stay AI, maybe Smarter, and another one, like, do your own research, but those are probably like the top 3 to 5.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just now starting to talk about how we're going to get into physical products and what we're going to do with subscriptions and supplements and swag. And we're talking telemedicine, which is like completely different, but to a
Like
consumer, like
GLP-1
lives in the
related
same
stuff or
land.
something else?
Yeah. Our ethos is like against GLP. So it's more in, we have a women's fitness company, 40 to 60-year-old women is like the direct target. And so that's like more of your HRTs, more of your stuff in that realm. So there's other like prescription level stuff, but then there's also a lot of supplements, but those like conflict and one ships from a pharmacy, one ships from a 3PL. So we're trying to like navigate where subscriptions live because the big bulk of the business is info coaching. So it's like one-to-one personal training remote and
Mm.
low ticket products. So it's like low ticket info, high ticket info, or I'm sorry, high ticket coaching, and then the physical product too. So we're just navigating that and like where subscriptions live and like how easy is it for someone to access like billing versus this versus that. So yeah, it's a fun game. But all right. All of that happens, and now you're here, like, what's the hot thing now? Like, where's your focus living?
I mean, we just had to, I got my tail in between my legs right now because we basically had vigilance fail relatively quickly. Let's just say we raised $250,000, which was a small amount of money. We spent maybe 30,000 or so launching the original app, and then we offered to return our investment to our investors. They said no. It's like a small amount of money for all of us. We put in 5, 10K each. Like, try something new. So we built something new that was called Internet Research Unit, and that was like a sales tool where we could tell you all this highlight. It's like built with meets
Yeah,
revenue data for e-commerce, but specifically for Shopify stores. So if you run an agency, or if you're an agency, you do it for lead gen. If you're a Shopify app, you use it for lead gen. If you're a brand, you use it to spy on your competitors to see how much money they're making per SKU, right? So we could tell you like, oh, Gymshark makes 80 million a month, and they make 8 million on this color and this, and 800,000 on this color and this size. They
yeah,
sell this many units a day. Here's like everything about them. Here are all their ads from their ads library. Here's all of their discount strategies. Here's like all the year it started, the team org, like just a bunch of high level data. But this year, April, I was like April 5th, Shopify announced this sort of, they plugged a hole in how we were able to acquire all this data on the brands. And the way that we were doing it was we were adding 1 million units per SKU to, and creating a checkout with just that one unique SKU. So let's just say there's over 1 billion SKUs on Shopify. We were trying to add 1 million units to 1 billion SKUs a day, and each one would, if you try to buy 1 million, Shopify will say you can't buy 1 million, but you can buy 1002. That 1002 is how many are left in inventory. So you would keep a rolling log of that every 6 hours. So every 6 hours you could do some math, like, okay, assuming they didn't restock, and if they did restock, you'd have to correlate it to a outbound marketing email that maybe got pushed, or a sign up here to get
that's
notified when
crazy.
it's back in stock. So we were and then take into consideration like 10% off on the homepage. So there's some assumptions around what the discount code usage is, the amount of, sales, if there was a increase in inventory. But essentially we could tell pretty much within like 95% accuracy how many sales a day per SKU and per variant on all of Shopify. Now, of course, if you were a drop shipper and you didn't have any inventory, obviously print on demand, we couldn't do that for those
Yeah,
stores. But for the majority of Shopify Plus and Shopify Advanced, we could essentially track all that. And then in April, they caught on, and I don't know if this is directly why or not. And like, shout out to these guys. They deserve all the stuff that they did. And they're they seem like they're great guys. But one of our competitors was called Next Big Shop, and they had raised, I think, $12 million. I'm like, great, we raised 250,000, and this is a pivot, so
Yeah.
we're behind. But we built a comparable product to theirs. We went to market, also got to 10,000 in monthly recurring revenue in the first few months, with a path to much bigger. And then that company, Next Big Shop, got acquired, although I don't think they returned capital to their investors. Like they lost money essentially. But the founder and the CEO of Next Big Shop became a head of product at Shopify.
Ah.
Coincidentally, a few months later, the way we were all collecting
Yeah.
unit data gets patched, and Shopify makes it so that you can only add 25 units of each SKU to the cart at checkout now by default. So essentially, like, that business, it still exists and it didn't break, but like the main value prop that people came to us for was not to say like, oh, show me the brands that have, just these apps installed. It was like, show me brands making between 1 and 5 million a year that have Klaviyo, because I'm an email marketing agency that's specifically focused on Klaviyo, and I take people from 1 to 5 to 5 to 10. And
Yeah.
now we don't have that revenue data. So the app's value essentially, in my opinion, was like cut in half. And so, or even more, right? And so since then, the last few months, we were like trying to come up with some Hail Mary business idea, and we're like, let's do this in AI. And then there's 20 of them. And then you're like, okay, it's almost tough to build it. It's almost risky to be building an AI unless you were started 3 or 4 years ago, because you're not part of core infrastructure. You are a wrapper with good marketing, most likely. And then you're just asking to be in a really highly competitive space. And that's not bad necessarily, but like, it just means that the technology is moving fast enough where you can become irrelevant in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And so for the same reasons I didn't get into NFTs, and I didn't believe in like NFTs or Web3 to begin with, but it was too new to take a risk on something because of how fast it seemed to be changing. I know AI is a much more solidified and definitive thing than Web3 and crypto, or not crypto, but Web3 and NFTs. But now, we had to wind down the business. We had run out of the 250,000 over 3 years, which was a lot of time for a very little bit of money for a team of 3 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, so now I'm about to launch a supplement brand it's in the hydration and vitamins space, but it's not what you would expect. It's not just another electrolyte brand and I'm not saying there's plenty of them that are absolutely crushing it, and maybe even more to what I had expected, right? Like, you're like, wow, a Liquid IV launched, and there's like so many of these other ones. You would think that. And then there's people who are doing 100 million a year making like
Mhm.
electrolytes for Spanish people with Spanish flavors. And you're like, holy shit. Okay. I see electrolyte for golf. I have a friend that runs electrolytes for golfers, and he's making 200,000 a month on Amazon. And I'm like, what the fuck? It's just electrolyte packets, but it's branded to golfers. Great. We're doing something like that, but it's more unique,
Yeah.
than just like a specific, like, spin out of a
Yeah.
collectible product.
Very cool. So with that, like, I'm hearing crazy stuff about, again, I'm all info coaching. Like, my whole brain is on info coaching and like LTV to CACs and like high ticket acquisition funnel through call funnels. So this e-com stuff is always interesting, and I watch a ton of content on it. So I see like the, Hudson Comfort around TikTok Shop, and I see Josh Snow talking about TikTok Shop and what they do, and then Ezra, we watch all those trainings on Google and Meta and how they do different things there. But what is like a go-to market of something like that for you?
I mean, so because we're going to be subscription oriented, and it's catering to a different, like, let's just say the pet category, for example, right? Like pets, kids, maybe elderly people, but like for the most part, you find sort of this category, something consumable. So for us, it's as a supplement. We're going to launch with subscription only on our own website, because we really want to double down on like retention, being able to offer free gifts, doing great branding and inserts and things that would keep people coming back, and collecting feedback if they're not going to come back, and hopefully making adjustments so they will. Um, we're not going to ignore TikTok Shop, and we're not going to ignore Amazon, but I think like you don't have as much control over Amazon. And with TikTok Shop, it would be new for me, because the last time I've run a brand was around early 2019. Once, when LiveRecover was taking off, I sort of divested the brand. But of course, starting with Meta and Instagram and Google, right? Running a bunch of UGC content. I think we're going to do what I keep hearing from among a bunch of friends, and what seems to be the consensus on social media, is like this TikTok clipping strategy, which is essentially just it's basically organized spam.
Yeah.
You can call it what you want, but it's essentially spamming at scale with control over what the the video, you provide the assets instead of someone else just spamming nonsense. But so we're going to do that, right? We're going to probably end up having hundreds or thousands of accounts on TikTok, some that are owned and operated internally, and majority that are externally owned and operated by other people who do this as a, as a way to monetize.
Yeah.
And then that won't be TikTok Shop necessarily. That'll just be to drive natural, organic Google search. And then on top of that, yeah, we're going to do, the sort of TikTok Shop approach, although it'll all end up like, I saw TikTok Shop recently announced you can do subscription or subscribe and save or recurring purchases. So if that ends up being a great channel, like, and we can pay affiliates enough to get excited, while the space that we're in is going to get very competitive very fast. So this is one of those times where you have to run,
Yeah.
and that is the opportunity, right? Like supplements are not really that defensible. Um, but yeah, so I mean, it's going to be Facebook, Instagram, Google. We'll do some YouTube ads. We're going to do TikTok Shop, and then we're going to do clipping on TikTok and IG Reels.
Yeah.
And then the rest will be sort of like, how do we build aggressive? I come from affiliate marketing and direct response. We're definitely going to be running a bunch of advertorials. We're definitely going to be, finding affiliates who are very awesome media buyers that hopefully we can make a great offer where they can run traffic profitably for themselves and obviously for us. But that will probably come after, like, the TikTok Shop thing is a little bit more straight to the point because they're
Yeah.
buying in platform versus sort of like having a little bit more of moving parts. But yeah, that's sort of going to be the launch process for the supplement brand. It's
Yeah.
called
That's
Nurture.
nurture. Yeah. I think I saw you post about like, would you say
I
you're
I
flame,
posted the brand
flame
and then
by
I deleted
design
it.
or something? Oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I deleted it because I didn't want too many people to see it yet, just because, like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if you have a great manufacturing relationship with a contract manufacturer and you maybe already have, like, your foot in the door on some of these things, it wouldn't be very challenging for someone to pivot or add this to their product line, and we're gonna come out swinging. I mean, that's gonna be the only way this works.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, 100%. It was, like I said, we're in the Blue Ribbon Mastermind thing, which is hilarious because again, that's all e-commerce and we don't do e-commerce at all. But at one point we were going to, and we just stayed in it. And we were there and met the guys who at the time didn't have it, but we're talking about launching a female, meat supplement or whatever it was, organ supplement.
hmm.
And fast forward, whatever it was, a year and a half, 2 years, and Primal Queen is doing, I don't know if you know, just
Yeah, they're
crazy
huge.
huge. And those guys were literally like talking about it. And they're like our buddies. So we have a Slack Connect channel and we're like, do you want to know? You go hang out with them and it's like, you talked about MRR and it's like bink, like every day.
Yeah.
Like
They
those guys
called their
are
shot
sharp.
and they did it, huh?
Oh yeah. Called it hard and did it. So yeah,
Awesome.
they hit it right in that pocket, but they'll talk about kind of how their structure is. And they always are just like, yeah, it just goes back to creative, ton of CRO on that long form landing page. They have like one direct, obviously for Hero, and now they've expanded, but those guys are just crushing.
Yeah,
So
back in the day, I mean, whenever I was starting as a media buyer doing the affiliate, like, call it gray hat, black, it was black hat affiliate marketing. It was really, how can you trick the algorithm with your creative, but your targeting to get the earliest sort of engagement signal to Facebook, and then, like, I mean, you're getting 1 cent, half of a penny targeted link clicks to women 35 to 50 with ads. All right. And you're talking about making not like a return on ad spend of X, but like a ROI of 300 to 500%, whatever it is. But it was very dependent on the targeting and very specific parameters. You could pick things like credit card scoring and all these things that Facebook used to layer on top of their audience, demographic data. Now, really, the creative is the targeting
yeah,
now, and you have to trust, because I'm sure there was many reasons, but it could have been like, you know, a prejudice, or almost like you're taking advantage of certain people by targeting them in certain ways, and for bad reasons, right? Like, not because you're trying to help them, because you're trying to do something negative. So now, yeah, I mean, like, to the Primal Poop thing, it's all content is the targeting, which
yeah.
for us, I think will work out well because it's a product focused on parents.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You hear a lot of people talking about that, like how you layer brand plus direct response into one because everything's going so much further brand. But, you need a moat at some level for that. Like
I
there's
mean, you
some
you become a brand by selling a lot right?
exactly.
So
Sure.
if you could, would you rather have 10,000 sales a year and be like, yeah, we're super focused on brand? Or would you rather have 1 million sales a year and be like mostly focused on direct response, but being like, well, you help 10,000 people a year. Do you really have a brand? We sell to a
Yeah.
million people a year, even though we're like a little bit more aggressive in our messaging. We sell to 1 million people a year. So I would think that, like, we actually have the brand here.
Yeah.
It's easier
No,
to become
yeah.
a brand after doing direct response. It's not as easy to be like, we're just going to focus on brand and hope that we get there. To your point, you have to do both, but I think it's like over anchoring on the thing or over indexing on the thing that actually makes the money is generally not
Yeah.
a bad idea.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're like extremely heavy DR. If you were like did it based on attribution, like it's 99% paid,
I
but
mean,
we have this massive middle.
Hims is like the biggest.
Exactly.
Proactive is literally like running television ads, commercials,
Yeah.
phone call, live HGTV, whatever. Like they were the biggest direct response company and they were like one of the largest brands, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like that, you can definitely pony them together. But cool. So I see your stuff where you talk about like fake VC or that you've done like all these angel investments. Like I see random tweets or whatever. What have you had any like crazy wins over there? Like, do you focus on that at all? Like, because you're in the
I've
space, right? You're plugged with everybody. It feels like.
I stopped focusing on it because I hit like a number where I said, look, I know because I sold my business, I should invest this much into angel investments or whatever, which ended up being like around 40 companies. I've had a lot that went to zero, and that's just the name of the
Yeah.
game. I've
Okay.
had no capital returned so far. It's been 4 years, so it's not like that long of a time frame. But like there are some in that portfolio that have done well, but just because they haven't gotten acquired yet, I've gotten no capital. But
Yeah.
like creatine gummies, I
Oh, wow.
invested in 2.5 years ago. I'm up 15x on paper. I'm up on Mad Rabbit Tattoo. I'm up on Everyday Dose Coffee. I'm up on Motion app, the
Yeah.
SaaS tool. I'm up on Post Pilot. They're like a direct mailing product for e-commerce, so you can send physical mail to people's mailbox with like marketing brochures and stuff. Um, and there's some other like some dental platform, but yeah, I mean, majority of them are like not that exciting. And there's a handful that I'm like up 15 to 20, 10 to 25x. And those are exciting, but it's just
Yeah.
on paper, right? So until they either issue a dividend and they're profitable or they get acquired, it's really just like it's like a fugazi a little bit
Yeah.
until it's realized. But it feels nice to see that some of them you have picked some winners that mean that
Yeah.
they will realize and become winners to you. To me, I don't know. But those are some of the companies that I'm like most excited about, and I think they all have those specific businesses have great products.
Yeah. I've never done it. I've always it's always been some dumb public thing, some crypt or some, computer coin or our own business. And now I'm starting to see like the fun ones. Like I just saw Brez posted theirs.
Res
They
is great. They're also raising money at a $250 million
I
valuation.
know.
So unless they sell for 500 million plus just to double your money, I'm not saying it's not a good investment. Those guys are
Yeah.
awesome. Aaron's
Yeah.
awesome. Nick Shackelford's a smart guy. Their branding is like second to none. I just think that if you're coming in this late in the game, you might have missed the ride up. And not, I could be completely wrong,
Yeah.
right?
No, I
But
have no
I
idea.
think that if you were just trying to not just double your money, that's great. But if you're trying to double your money on something at that scale, you either got to be putting in a lot of money and have a long time frame, or it's not that interesting in my opinion.
Yeah.
Although if you're a Coca-Cola or you're a drink brand, you're like, we're just going to give you this because we want to start to test if you fit our portfolio and then we're going to buy you. Makes total sense.
Yeah. No, that's I don't know their exact numbers, but I think he said publicly in that
Like
post, like they're at
46 million
60.
in the last
Yeah.
year or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's whatever it is, multiple X on top.
5x
But
multiple on revenue, which is,
yeah.
maybe a 15x multiple on profit, which isn't like it's getting close to like what I don't know what Poppy or Olipop was, acquired for based on their margins, but they're probably one of the bigger, fastest growing drink brands.
Yeah.
At least in their category, they're probably number one.
Yeah. Well, cool. What else you see right now happening in D2C land that's like exciting? Like you said some AI stuff, which again, I'm with you. It's kind of like infrastructure, the bricks have been laid and now it's kind of a lot of pieces on top of that. But like, is there anything that stands out to you as fun or sexy or cool that's happening in D2C land?
I think over the last 2 years, it's been very clear that gummies have become like the new, medium and format for a lot of these new brands, right? It was creatine gummies, and then it was before, like 10 years ago, it was hair growth gummies on Instagram called Sugar Bear Hair, which
Oh
I'm
yeah, I remember that.
friends
Yeah.
with the guy who sold that. Awesome company, awesome outcome. But then you fast forward, it's like, okay, creatine gummies. I started laughing at it, which is why I invested because I'm like, this is a dumb idea. What happened to fake powder? And then I'm like, no, the fact that you're saying that and guys are getting enraged and leaving comments like the powder is cheaper, it increases the engagement on all the ads. And I'm like, that's why I need to invest. So I thought gummies was like a really big category and I considered jumping into the space myself, but instead I just invested in Create. Then I saw Groons, which Groons was like, we see athletic greens growing like 500 mil. They're at 500 plus 600 million a year with one SKU just selling greens powder. But some people hate the way it tastes. Let's make greens powder a gummy and make it taste good. And they're going to be bigger than athletic greens probably in a third of the time.
Wow.
Do I think that gummies are going to be for a forever thing? Like, no, you're starting to see people say like, oh, well, you're taking in all these extra calories and it's extra sugar and it's extra gelatin or like whatever. You might not, need that. So like, what's the new thing? It seems like creatine outside of just gummies has become pretty big, right? Colostrum has clearly become mainstream with Armra is as big as athletic greens. There's plenty of second, third, fourth, fifth place players that are running massive, Cowboy colostrum, Bloom supplements colostrum, you
Mhm.
name it. There's brands doing 50, 100 million a year, just riding the coattail of the category leader, which is not a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
But now it seems like we're getting in this place where people are starting to want to do less for their routines. And this is just my perspective, but like a 3-in-1, right? You see Brian Johnson, the like don't die guy. He sells a longevity mix that's collagen, protein, and creatine in a lemonade. And it's like, okay, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy that because maybe I want to just have one individual thing and I'm not like over supplementing. But if you're taking all that stuff every day, and you're like, geez, I got to do this and I got to do that. It's just like a process to have 4 different drinks. I don't like
Yeah.
mixing them because they taste like shit. These 2-in-1, 3-in-1, 4-in-1 type of supplements, if you can keep the potency and the efficacy and the claims are all there and the quality of the ingredients are there, I think that's a very natural way to go. You can always, say, hey, well, like, do you want to be the steak knife or the Swiss Army knife? Right.
Yeah.
I prefer to be the steak knife. Or like, dude, hands
Yeah.
down, there's no better creatine than Momentous or Form or whatever it is. Oh, okay, just because Brian Johnson uses Creapure and puts creatine and colostrum and this and this and this in one, do I think that that's the best way for me to get my creatine if that's what I care about? No. So in that case, a diehard creatine user is not going to switch. But
Yeah.
if you're a new to the market type customer and you're like, you know what, I think it's like a cool thing to drink less alcohol. I want to focus on my health. Seems to be in trend, right? To like be very there's social wellness clubs, like we're really starting to get more into socially being healthy. I think for most people, a 3-in-1 or 4-in-1 or whatever it is type supplement is probably like a great place to be and to start.
Yeah.
So I think it's already out there, but I think that's going to be a growing thing.
Yeah, I heard some I'm trying to remember what podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about, like, the changing consumption method and going from powder to gummy, and then they were trying to talk about, like, what could be next in that, and it's like, is there gels? Are there, like, shots? And they're like, "Oh, people hate shots. That's not a good idea."
Yeah,
I'm like,
I
"What
know
about this?"
shots of like, I know of a company that sells protein shots, not injectable shots,
Yeah.
shot glass, but it's in like a little 5-hour energy type of thing, and it's got 5 calories, and it's 35 grams of
Oh,
protein in
wow.
essentially like a little lemonade shot, and they're like, $2.50 or whatever it is, and so if you're going to the gym or if you're on a run or whatever, or whatever, you're traveling, you just, like, wanna get extra protein, they're selling protein shots, like, I don't know if that's
Yeah,
the
I mean, that is
future or not,
enticing,
but
yeah. Yeah,
protein is
I'm over
very
here, like, right I literally left the gym, and I just buy these, and I refuse to drink a lot of them because of whatever's terrible in them. I have 1 a day is what
they
I'm
taste
allowed,
great,
which
though.
it tastes so
Those
good.
core powers are awesome.
So good. 42 grams is like, can't beat it. But yeah, I don't know. The consumption method thing's interesting. And then also I'm the multi in one to me, because we're talking about doing this now, is like your AOV just goes bloop. Like versus being able, if you're like a catalog company or a collecting company and you sell a creatine, a pre, a pump, and whatever, like having 4 SKUs, I guess it's easier to manage one SKU and inventory and all that, but also like you're not selling it for the combined total of all 4 of those. You're still in the 50 range or 60 or whatever range
Right.
versus being in $240 for someone to get their like monthly supplements. So that's like an interesting economics thought that we're having, is like, does that work or does it matter? Because that was the other question, is like, you're starting this thing up, and what does it take nowadays? I see different people that are like, oh, it's 30 to 50 grand to basically like launch one of these new brands and get like essentially XYZ minimum orders or minimum quantities. But, and you don't have to give exacts, but like roughly speaking, you got to do all your cool designs. You got to do your, your site. You got to get minimum inventories. You got to do XYZ research. Like, is that 30 grand to start one nowadays? Is it 50 grand to start one nowadays?
I'm doing this with a buddy, and we're probably, give or take, around 100, and that's including, let's say, it's probably like closer to like 120. For the product that we're making, it's not like as simple as like, oh, salt and magnesium and
Yeah.
some flavoring and whatever. So let's just say that like, let's say you have 50 cents for a bag. You have a stick pack and there's 30 and they're 4 cents per stick pack. You have 30 in a bag. So that's $1.20 for the stick packs and raw printing costs, 50 cents for the bag. So you're $1.70 just in raw materials. And you're going to ship it to a contract manufacturer. Let's just say that's, $500. But then you got, so $1.70. Then you have the cost of the actual raw materials, the labor, the formulation, the R&D, the sampling, the development, if you got multiple revisions. And let's just say that you're not getting all of that in your early orders at, call it 5,000 bags, which is times 30 stick packs, only 150,000 stick packs. You're not getting that for under $10 a bag at the manufacturer.
Yeah.
At least not at that low volume, low MOQ, right? And you're barely hitting MOQs and you're wasting overage with raw materials because you might be over purchasing amino acids or purchasing more of something else. And that just means you're spending 12, 15 grand on like, cause it's maybe 25 kilos of a minimum order for a certain thing. And you're only using 5 of them because your order size is so small. So
Yeah.
then you end up having waste, right? And then you account, let's say it's $12 a bag plus $1.75 for your cost. So now you're like $14 a bag. Even at 5,000 bags, that's 70 grand, right? And then let's say we spend 15K on design, that's 85. And there's spend another 5 getting legal set up, putting a little bit of money in the bank account, opening up Shopify, some of the other things, and then another 10 for site development, content, some video, UGC, blah, blah, blah. Like that's just to start without even really running any ads. That's at 100 grand.
Yeah.
And so if you're launching something off the shelf that's not custom and maybe you're not having to order a lot of these raw materials, maybe you're like piggybacking off of another customer who had wasted raw materials where you can buy and maybe take over some of their stuff, you could get the cost down, right? Like I think you could launch a beef tallow skincare brand for 30, and you can maybe launch an electrolyte brand in a tub that doesn't have stick packs and a bag for less than what we're doing, right? It really just depends. But I think, yeah, if you could get it done for under 50 and you have the resources to have $50,000 yourself or through friends and family or whatever, and you can take a shot for 30 or 50 grand on something that could really work, I think that's a lower risk business than a lot of businesses.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then so the goal with this brand then is obviously very likely to exit it, because I keep hearing over and over again, like a lot more as of late, that like e-commerce, like screw the margin, it's only for the exit play, it's only for the exit play. And there's obviously like direct response people that play that game very differently, where it's, all built around cash flow, or attempted to be all built around cash flow. But what is the play there to build big? Because I mean, even the breads we were just talking about, like they were talking about, inventory constraints and how it's always tied up. And you hear big guys like Fogarty and whatever be like, yeah, like that's the name of the game. You just got cash sitting on shelves. You got cash sitting waiting to be.
You're
on
always
shelves.
rolling your gains forward in these
Yeah.
DTC brands, right? For inventory, for sales tax, for tax, whatever. Obviously, the end goal is not, if you get acquired, because the end goal is just to build a really healthy business, a sustainable business that could weather any storm and that's got defensibility to some degree, whether that's brand defensibility or it's not going to be your ingredients, right? It's not like you come up with and invent some trademarked ingredient that you own. So I think for us, it's like, how do we get from 0 to 10,000 monthly subscribers in the first year, 6 months, right? If you can go from 0 to 10,000 subs in 6 months or a year, and those recurrings are paying $40 a month, and you have 400 grand in monthly recurring revenue, of course, that's not that you might be making a 40% margin on that, but still, if you have a $250,000 or 200,000 a month coming from subscriptions, that's pure profit. You have a much more predictable, inventory forecasting and reordering. And then at that point, if you're making $2 million, $3 million as a quote lifestyle business where you didn't have to raise money from investors and you can distribute that as you feel appropriate, that's always the goal.
Yeah.
But if you build a healthy business like that, those are the kind of businesses that get acquired.
Yeah.
You don't have that and you're always having to you're always just chasing growth because you raise money and that's how you raise more money to do it all over and over and over again. You're chasing that. You're basically running in a circle and just having to keep doing that. And that's definitely not the goal for us.
Yeah.
I think, if we build a minimum of a $10 million a year business, then that will be that'll be cool. If we get to, you know, millions, multiple 8 figures a year, then it would be like, wow, we've really got something on our hands here. I don't think that like we would ever not we would sell if the right number came about, right? But it's
Yeah.
not like let's build this because we think we can sell it to somebody.
Yeah.
Um, that's just not
Yeah,
what
yeah, it
we're
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you hear people talking all the time with the whole subscription game is just constantly figuring out like where that LTV goes and where your actual churn exists, and then you're optimizing around it. So then we can lean into spend harder, and it's like you accelerate even further that whole like needing to pour cash back in because you're like, oh, cool, now a new month has happened, and you're like, okay, 40% of them stayed. That means I can move this much more to the front on my CPA, and it's like it's a never ending cycle whenever you look at it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. We'll be probably pretty public. We're not going to be like one of those building in public type of folks
Yeah,
because there's not really an upside. I'm never going to, my co-founder doesn't need to promote himself. He doesn't want to be public. I don't want to sell a course ever. At least
yeah,
I have always said that. And so for us, it's like, yeah, we don't want to encourage competition, but,
yeah.
you know, I'll probably post some little tidbits out there about what it is,
Yeah.
once it's live because I want people to give us honest feedback, but hopefully not to just like write our code.
Not just rip it, yeah.
Nah, then we'll just create a race and it's like, fuck, I was the only one in the race before. Now we got a whole people that we brought to the track.
Yeah, it's fair. Well, cool, man. This is fantastic. I mean, we did a lot of business talk on this, and there's some questions around life and lifestyle, but we're running up on the hour, so we might have to do a part two.
For sure.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you. People find you. Where's the core place? X?
Yeah, probably on X. I still call it Twitter, but I guess it is X. And then with Dennis Hegstad on X. That's where I spend most of my time lurking and shit posting and reading.
Fair enough. Yeah, it still doesn't roll off the tongue to be like, oh, I tweeted. I don't really know how you say I X'd.
A tweet is a verb. That was what made it cool.
Exactly.
You created a word that didn't exist. That was an action. X, you just post stuff like everywhere else, and it's like, oh man, you messed up. I think. But Elon knows what he's doing. I'm just,
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I'm a
Okay. Well, cool, man. I appreciate you, and I will get this up tonight.
Awesome. Good
Awesome.
chatting with you, Ryan. It's been a
Yeah,
good time.
100%. Talk soon.
All right, man.
Bye.
See ya.